It's time for the Mic'd Up Podcast with your host.
I'm Mike Constantine, your Tampa Realtor, and this show is for local entrepreneurs to showcase their businesses and discuss the successes and setbacks of running a thriving business.
You're listening to
The Mic'd Up Podcast.
Welcome back to the Mic'd Up Podcast. Today's guest, Mr. Joey Deeb of Templar Contracting. How the hell are you, man?
Doing great, man. It's Tuesday morning, I think, right?
Somewhere around there. It's afternoon.
Every day feels like a Monday lately.
So, hey, welcome in. Appreciate you coming in, making the time for us to go ahead and sit down and, talk about what you do. Everybody, I think that watches this, which is a large majority of Pasco, Pinellas, Hillsborough, already knows the Deeb family name. You guys have been synonymous with construction for a very, very long time. Mm-hmm. And so what was it like? Like, you grew up in a construction family and not even a small one. Like, you guys have a lot of projects. So what was that like?
It was very interesting. My grandfather and his brother, way back in the 60s and 70s, they actually started the St. Pete building department. They built a lot of the beach hotels. My grandfather's brother was a senator, and they got involved in a lot of huge development.
Is your family from St. Pete or Pasco?
St. Pete.
Really? So they migrated to Pasco then?
Some of them are still in St. Pete, but
okay.
My grandfather, started all in St. Pete. My father and a couple of my uncles ventured here, and actually one of their first big projects was right behind us here in Veterans Village. I built hundreds of houses back there.
Really?
Mm-hmm. My dad started off as a Pasco sheriff's deputy back in the 70s.
Now, that's one of the largest neighborhoods by density, meaning number of homes.
By density, absolutely.
It's huge.
Yep. It was 50 houses at a time they were building.
I wonder how much fill dirt had to go into that.
A lot.
I was going to say, it's a ton in there.
I think that's part of the reason why, the family had a land development company where they did infrastructure and land prep, mold remediation, actual custom houses. I mean, pretty much soup to nuts, everything that you could think of in development.
Okay.
And real estate, construction attorneys, like just so many. My grandfather had 9 kids. His brother had another 8 kids. I think I have 26 first cousins and another 20 something of his brother's side. So there's a lot.
Damn.
Yeah.
That's a big Thanksgiving.
It was. And, growing up, we'd work on different job sites. I've seen everything there is to see in construction. Never, as far as hands-on goes, never got great at one thing because each week I'd be at a different job site doing something different. One week we'd be laying sewer lines under longleaf or building roads or sweeping out houses or doing drywall, just kind of wherever they needed me. $5 an hour, and so
they were way overpaying you.
They were, and I probably owe them some money back for sleeping on the job a couple of times.
Yeah, like $4.99.
Yeah, that's fair. I'll take that.
I never realized exactly how deep the roots of the Deeb family went until I was at my own HOA meeting in Aristida, and I think is it your uncle that's in there?
Uncle Tom.
Yep. And so when they were talking with the county about the road system, you guys put the roads through Aristida. I always thought the county did that stuff, but I think they subbed it out or at some point to your family. Cause I mean, the knowledge that he had about gravel levels and asphalt and pitches. And I'm sitting back, I'm like, never heard somebody talk about roads with the amount of knowledge that this guy has, and he's very calm, very measured,
Absolutely.
But, it was just mind boggling because most people in building, being in the world of real estate, I come across track home builders, custom home builders, remodelers, all that good stuff. And most of them are just saying, okay, here's the ground I'm building up,
right,
or I'm going to remodel somebody else's mess. But the fact that your family does infrastructure on top of that, I mean, that's a different ball game.
It is. And it's very important also, right? Because you have to go by, Swift mud and county parameters when you're building stuff. And when they have input, especially when they're living there, it's a low-lying area and the drainage has to be perfect for people to have functional houses there. I remember when they were developing it, I was much younger and my Uncle Tom had horses. We were riding horses through there figuring out where the roads were going to be. And he would show me, a lot of different things. So it is interesting. I mean, I saw a lot of things in the industry that most people probably never would. And it's all learning experiences. It all goes into your head and you use it at some point,
And then backing up to a wildlife preserve, 18,000 acres of Starkey Park. I mean, that has its own challenges going with it because you're dealing with, wildlife disturbance and most likely tortoises because they're protected and relocation of all the animals and things like that.
Yeah. I mean, something as simple as a bald eagle nest within certain amount of footage of building, you can't build until they're out. Turtles, same thing. You have to professionally get them out. And, where I live right by Starkey Park, that was one of his ranches with the animals, and my uncles bought that piece of land and had my cousins build their first set of houses there. That's where I still live. But that was their first real project of getting the kids involved and, building, selling, moving forward and on to the next neighborhood.
I really want to see you ride a horse.
Well, let's just say
we still have equestrian variances on the side of our roads. So if I got to go rent a freaking horse so Joey Deeb can go through Aristida on horseback,
I might need a Clydesdale for the strength. I think back then I was probably only about 150 pounds, and we were good there.
So you grew up in the business, right? What made you want to stay in the business? Well,
I graduated high school. I went to Loyola University in New Orleans to go to school. The deal was in my family, if you went to a private Catholic college, my grandfather would pay for it. He's put all of us through college. Even after he passed away, all 26 grandkids with 2 still young enough left to be in have all been paid for. So I had 2 cousins that went there. I went and visited them, and I had some sports offers with soccer and football all over. And I think I had enough at that point. We got beat up pretty good senior year. And I went and visited them.
Where'd you do high school at?
Ridgewood, locally.
Okay.
Formerly known as Ridgewood, I should say. Wendell Crin, whatever it is. But having said that, I went up there and visited. Within like 2 hours, I'm like, I'm going here. And it was probably one of the best times of my life. Might have probably taken 10 years off my life, maybe. But you want to talk about learning
from the athletics or just being in New Orleans?
Being in New Orleans, yeah. I played rugby for the school, but I partied like everyone else. But I also got good grades. I did what I was supposed to do.
How do you not party? It's New Orleans.
Yeah, it was crazy, and I didn't moving from Newport Richey to New Orleans was a huge culture shock, and just everything was different. I remember going to one of my first bars there in New Orleans and seeing a couple of the priests that teach in our school. And I was just shocked. I'm like, priests drink, It was.
I actually didn't know that. Other than wine.
They're in New Orleans, at least, they're normal heavy drinkers. I was shocked to see them in the bar, and one of my smart ass friends was like, hey, forgive me, Father, I sinned. I'm drinking underage. And the priest literally handed my friend and us a shot and said, here's your penance. That's a true story.
Wow.
Yeah.
Something new every day, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. So, I went through college, stayed there after for a girl I was dating that didn't work out. And I ended up working for John Goodman, the actor, and his wife.
Really?
Yeah, I lived with John's brother-in-law by chance. He was a professional boxer. And one day he's like, hey, we're going to my brother-in-law's house.
What did you do for John Goodman, by the way?
So they owned a professional boxing fighting company, and I was their marketing director. It's called Kingfish Boxing Productions.
And this was in New Orleans?
This was in New Orleans. Yep.
I never would think of John Goodman. Mm-hmm. I always think of the Big Lebowski when I think of him. Most people think of Roseanne, the husband, whatever.
Yeah.
But I always think the Big Lebowski because that's one of the greatest characters ever.
I'll get to that. I got a cool story about that too. But
all right.
So, his wife is from Bogalusa, Louisiana. So that's, like an hour and a half away from New Orleans or something like that. So that's where the roots are there. And, so I worked for them for, I don't know, about a year, and I was real good friends with their brother-in-law, Preston, and he was like my age. And unfortunately he passed away. He had a heart attack at 29 years old. And, but we stayed friends, and it was weird because, I went over to his house when I first met him, and it was just like normal. He was in the same fraternity I was in, so we kind of had an automatic.
Now, he was famous at the time.
Yeah, this is 2000.
Oh, so this is way after Roseanne and all of his movies. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Just 2002 or 3, something like that. And so we'd go to his fishing camp on the Intercoastal, and one of the coolest things we've ever done was myself and Preston and John. We were fishing out back his fishing camp all night, and we went inside, showered up, and we sat in his living room and watched The Big Lebowski together. Like, I was sat with John watching The Big Lebowski. It was one of the coolest things I've ever done. And I'm looking at him, he's reciting the lines. I'm like, it was just surreal checking it out. And then he'd always hook me up.
That is so damn cool.
Yeah.
You got to do that with Goodman, man.
It was cool. I mean, There was one time, he'd always like send me to the foundation room at the House of Blues when something cool was going on, because he was cool like that. And one time at the Super Bowl, when the Rams were playing the Patriots, he said, "Go to the foundation room. I'm going to put your name on the list." And I said, "Okay." I go, "Hey, my name's on the list." And the guy's like, "Get out of here." I'm like, "No, I'm friends with John Goodman. My name's on there. Check it." And I hear he's with me. And I turn around, it's Marshall Falk. And I like, "You talking to me?" He's like, "Yeah, you're John's friend. Come on up." I'm like, "Okay." So I go up, it's Marshall Falk's private cigar party.
For those who don't know, Marshall Falk is an amazing running back for the Rams for a lot of years.
Yeah, Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
And so I go up there, and it's every NFL superstar you could think of. Peyton Manning, Donovan McNabb at the time, or old stars too. Ronnie Lott, Terry Bradshaw.
And they're all asking for Joey Deeb's autograph.
They did. It was weird, but I gave it to them. I gotta be cool like that. So
I get
took pictures, but they were in their element because they weren't in public, and there weren't a bunch of people around asking them questions. So they were all cool. And I have one claim to fame. This is the year before the Bucs went to the Super Bowl.
I mean, you've already name dropped about 30 people, so keep going on your claim to fames.
This one's cool though. So I'm in the bathroom, in the not urinal next.
This is getting weird already. You're talking
Yeah.
about bathroom stalls and guys, but anyway, keep going.
It's all right. I was taking a leak next to Donovan McNabb, and we go wash our hands at the sink, and I'm like, "Dude, you kill us every year, Bucs in the playoffs. Next year, I need a game-changing interception. That's it." What happened next year? Rondé Barber intercepted and brought us to the Super Bowl. So I take a little bit of credit for that. I think
you're really stretching on that one as far as taking credit.
Yeah.
I mean, you take a piss next to a guy, you wash hands, and then you think you changed the evolution and the history of the NFL, but whatever.
But it sounds cool.
It does sound cool.
Yeah. So
you didn't have to start with the whole "I'm taking a piss next to a guy." You should say, "Hey, we're washing our hands in a restroom," but whatever you're into.
I wanted you to have the whole visual.
Thanks, man.
And one last thing we did was he invited me to dinner one night, and I literally had dinner in the foundation room with John Goodman, John Cusack, Dan Aykroyd. And one of the guys, they were filming Runaway Jury at the time, and I forgot the other guy's name. And we all had dinner there, and then went down to the other room, and those guys were singing and playing on stage. One of the coolest things ever. Bruce Willis, he played there, and we got to hang out with him one night. So I don't think I realized how awesome that was until, I left New Orleans, because I was, 23, 24.
It's weird. I think everybody's had celebrity encounters, and sometimes it's really cool.
Mm-hmm.
When I was in the Marines and I was over in Hawaii, we'd see celebrities all the time.
Yeah.
We got to be extras on a lot of different movie sets, and they always wanted military guys because they didn't have to spend, set money on costumes. So we'd come there in our camouflage and all that.
Oh yeah.
And then you meet some that are just like the awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And then you really remember the ones that were just complete dicks. Like there's some celebrities that you just like, you looked up to them as a kid.
Yeah.
I mean, did you have any experiences like that with,
I mean, John was kind of a dick to other people, but not me. I was like, I don't know, because we'd go to the grocery store or something, and I could see how it is obnoxious, but I can also see how those people kind of, you know, made you who you are. But it's a balance, I could kind of see both sides of it. Um, I haven't had any terrible experiences with any celebrities to say, and I know we'll get back to that point, but to follow on to how I got back into the construction, I'll just carry on this side of it. So I ended up moving back to Florida, and no one wants to work for like your dad right away, right? You're still young, you think you know everything, and it was just a difficult thing for me to accept that, hey, this could be good for me. So I went to work for my cousins, Deeb Family Homes, and they're like, here's 50 houses, go build them, And
So you were the head of the project.
I was head of the project.
Wow. At what age is this? Early 20s?
Yes. And I had never built a house before. I've been involved in most phases, but I've never actually built a house. And, we did see some different neighborhoods here, like Pristine Place in Spring Hill, some downtown Newport Richey on Louisiana, River Chase, and then some nicer houses on Tennis Court in River Crossing. Those are kind of the first set of houses that I ever built. And I had passed up another job. My family needed help and asked me to come help them. And we said no problem as long as I had worked for a year. And 4 months in, they laid me off. And I was not happy about that.
This is while you were in the middle of that 50 home project.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. And some I finished, some I didn't. But, they were like, hey, the recession's coming. We got to do some things. And I said, well, you guaranteed me work for a year. And I wasn't happy.
This is what, 06, 08, something like that? Or
somewhere in that vicinity.
Okay.
And, and I was upset. I kind of took it on the chin and walked away and decided, hey, looks like I got to do it on my own. And I went and worked for another builder for the next year. That lasted about 2 years. I ended up getting ripped off from him for about $75,000. So that one ended, and then I kind of just started doing things on my own. And I had earned a pretty good reputation by that point as far as what we did. I built Winky Wright's house back then, a professional boxer. Got some notoriety on that, and kind of stuck with the same crews and developed relationships with them that still work with me now, and we kind of followed each other. They stayed with me, I stayed with them, and we all kind of grew together. And, year by year, I'd have different opportunities come up, or different projects or bathrooms or new houses or kitchens. And, they just kept getting nicer and nicer and bigger and bigger. And, that's really what kind of put me into it. I've worked with my father for many years. He did a lot of commercial work, but I did the residential side. So he, made me half owner in his company, and we just kind of worked. But then he is obviously much older than me and much wealthier than me, and not as aggressive on, what route he wants to go with marketing. And he's old school too, right? Just no social media, none of this stuff. So we just had some different viewpoints, and I thought I needed something different. And that's kind of where Reagan came in.
Okay. And that's where Templar was born.
That's where Templar was born. I mean, Reagan quit Farrell. He was working for Team Farrell, local construction company. And I had watched, and, from my viewpoint, he did good with marketing and sales, and, it looked good. And I knew him since high school, and we were friends, and, everything looked good on paper. And I said, he quit Farrell. I didn't know he was quitting. Found out the day he did it. He called me. I think he was in the Grand Canyon or something. Like,
you guys went to high school together, didn't you?
Yes.
Okay. Football. I think you guys both played football.
Yep.
Yeah.
Played football, all kinds of stuff. And, and he told me what was going on. And I'm like, hey, we should team up, man. And what do you got going on? And he was a little standoffish at first, and I was like, what are we doing here, man? It the way it laid up was weird. I had lost a couple jobs that I usually land, and he, it just came available, and it seemed like the timing was right. So he said, all right, well, come meet me and this other guy. And I'll show you what we have going on. And I said, okay, we met, won't name the other guy just for his own privacy, but we met in this gentleman's office, and, he was like, hey, Reagan showed me, he made Templar, the name. He made some, marketing material that looked nice, the logo, it all looked good. I go, yeah, I love it. Okay. And, the other gentleman said, yeah, if you want to be a part of Templar, you're going to have to pay us $50,000. And I looked at him and I looked at Reagan and I go, I'm sorry. I already have my company. I've been operating. I have all my accounts. I have everything going. So if anything, you should be paying me. I'm not paying anything. And the guy was like, yeah, you're right. So, that was it right there. I wasn't paying anything. And I said, well, all right, we'll put in the sweat equity. Reagan and I have made enough money to just not get paid, get a company healthy, and go from there. So that's kind of what we did. This other gentleman was supposed to be in charge of giving us an office and an office manager doing the administrative stuff. Reagan was going to do the marketing and sales, and I was just going to run the construction end. And that's really what we did the first year.
Now, you're a GC?
Not a general contractor or a business contractor.
Okay. So what's the difference?
So general contractors can do, building, I said business. I'm sorry. Building contractor. General contractors can do commercial work. They could go build a skyscraper downtown. Building contractors do mostly residential. They can do some light commercial, but that's about it. So the GC is the main license, and it's a common misconception from people. A lot of people are like, are you guys GC? And they don't understand. So yeah, it's separate.
I'm in general real estate, mostly residential, a little bit of commercial, industrial, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
I honestly didn't know what the difference was, because whenever I hear of someone, they say, oh, I'm a GC.
Right.
But I mean, unless you're building skyscrapers, you can pretty much get a BC license from what it sounds like to do residential development, strip malls, things like that.
You can. And I've never needed my personal license, so I haven't sat for the test. My project manager, Joe Gillespie, actually holds our license and manages our project. So it's a win-win there.
You're talking about sitting for the GC test?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm eligible for the GC test,
okay.
which most people aren't. So, I'll probably be doing that this summer, but running the business, single fatherhood, and not really needing it. I just run the business end of things. So
it was kind of a perfect storm, because, you developed Templar and you can handle the construction side of things. You have a very, enthusiastic guy locally that can go out and do the marketing, advertising, and really that's where the talent lied.
Yeah.
And still does, is going out and just kind of creating hype. And there was actually some pretty funny stuff that you guys did for a while.
Yeah.
I mean, it was pretty darn good. So the corporate structure was, you're the construction guy, he's selling the jobs, bringing in the marketing. And then from there, it just kind of formed into, what Templar, is and was. And then,
yeah, I mean, we moved on from the other gentleman because we weren't getting what we had bargained for. And then Reagan and I went our separate ways, and, and I mean, not Reagan and I together went our separate way, away from the other guy. And, and really kind of started over, cause the guy drained us financially and didn't do what he was supposed to do. And we literally started over. And, Reagan was good at getting our name out there. He was good at being creative and, doing funny stuff and, just stuff to get people engaged. And, and we did really well with sales and projects and, kind of just went through, and I think we made it on talent.
Well, I think there's an intrinsic value to partnerships, and then partnerships, I've been in some, I'm in one 10 years with my partner in all of our rentals and flips and all that stuff. And, you bring out the best and sometimes the worst comes out in that as well.
Yeah.
But the one thing that I'll say about partnerships, whether they stay strong for decades or they end, it's an amazing learning opportunity,
Yes.
both good and bad on a personal and professional level, because some of the hardest lessons I've learned have come from being in partnerships. Some of the greatest things I've learned have come from being in partnerships. And so, obviously that ended, right? And now you're moving forward with Templar.
Mhm.
And so what do you tell me about some of the projects that you've done with Templar that have been, do you mostly do remodels? Do you do new builds from the ground up? I know you've worked with celebrities, things like that. So, talk a little bit about that.
Well, we definitely do way more remodels than new construction. I mean, new construction's great. It's much more structured. It's easier. I'd love to do it because there's, not many surprises. I probably do a couple new houses a year, custom houses. It's very hard to compete with the bigger, the Starkey ranches and they have their own property and they can build for cheaper. So
Actually talk about that a little bit, because when people buy new homes, and that's my arena, is a lot of times they'll go in and they'll remodel.
Yeah.
And talk about the difference between using a Templar to rebuild a kitchen as opposed to a track home builder that's buying in bulk and just slapping stuff in a wall, or
right.
they buy 500 slabs of granite and everybody in the neighborhood gets the same thing. So,
Yeah.
so talk about the differences, from both fits, finishes, quality, ability to pick things out.
Sure. And one of the benefits of a custom house is it's custom, and we walk through literally every single square inch of the house and figure out what our customers want. Custom designs, move this wall, move that wall. And definitely not to bash any of those builders. They do what they do, but they're very structured. They're very organized as far as what they do down the line. You can't make many changes. And a lot of times when you try to upgrade, it's a huge upgrade number. So yeah, we've gone in a million different times right after a house is closed, brand new, and ripped out kitchens and floors and staircases and bathrooms. And it's crazy. It's hard to do, seeing brand new stuff and ripping it out. It's actually difficult to do, but
Well, I would imagine it's got to be harder. And I don't want to get into bashing anybody or anything,
Yeah.
but we'll talk about, and not just one particular builder.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of them that 2020, 2021, and even early 2022, they were fighting over labor.
Yeah.
And they brought in a lot of unskilled labor to put together homes. And now one of the largest neighborhoods in Pasco that was built has a fairly notorious, famous name here locally. It's having major issues because they got mold in between the walls because the construction was shoddy, and then moisture was getting in there. And these are not cheap houses. I mean, these are $800,000 $1 million homes that almost like an entire street, has the same issues because that street was built with unskilled labor because they couldn't find skilled labor.
Well, it's not only unskilled labor, it's unskilled supervisors as well.
Right.
And a lot of these guys just don't know what they're doing. And just like anything else, to get a good final product, the preparation has to be correct. The supervision has to be correct. And you really have to have the knowledge of what you're doing. And I can go through, we do things on our houses that these builders don't do or just start doing, like on a second story, for instance, like we take our red guard and waterproof around all the windows. They're just starting to do that now. As you well know, all the stucco issues they've had with buckling.
What is red guard around windows?
Red guard's like a waterproofing membrane. We use it in showers. You've probably seen it. It's like pink when you apply it on the walls.
Yeah.
It's just a waterproofing membrane, and it's wood. So you waterproof the wood before you put the window on, and you peel and stick. And, even as far as the size of the staples you use in wire lath is critical, because as you see in some of these houses, they back out over time, and that's where the buckling comes in. Not one of those builders use good paint, you're usually having to repaint your house in a couple of years, and most people don't. They don't understand that.
It's funny you mentioned that. I went into a development with a very large builder, and I saw their paint guys. Half of it was paint, half of it was water.
Yeah.
And when I go, one of the first things I do when I go to list a house is run my hand down the side.
Mhm.
And if it comes out with chalk, that means your paint has worn out its life. It's no longer protecting the home. We're talking about houses that are a year old,
Yep.
like new construction homes that are a year old. And I tell the owner, you need to repaint it.
Mhm.
And they say, well, no, this is 1 year old. And I'll show them, and they're like, I don't want to spend thousands of dollars to repaint this. I said, check your warranty, see if the builder will warranty, and they won't warranty paint.
No.
But they bring out these lovely Sherwin-Williams cans, but when they can use half the amount of paint to do twice as many homes, it's all about reporting to public shareholders. To me, there's some things that have happened, where I think of, I'm in Florida my whole life. I've been in this state my whole life, except when I was in the military, traveling around and doing that stuff. I miss old construction, where a lot of people took pride in it.
Yeah.
It was all CBS construction. If you look at some of these homes that are, Gulf Harbors is a good example.
Mhm.
You look at those 8-foot ceiling, 7-foot ceiling homes, they are built like tanks.
They are.
They are not going to fall down. They've been through multiple storms. Nothing happens. And then you see some of the newer construction that's even in the same neighborhood.
Yeah.
And you'll see, the
They're not built to
fascia.
last.
You'll see fascia coming off. You'll see, windows that are at angles. And it's like, how does this, happen?
A lot of these builders also hire private inspectors and bypass the county.
Oh, yeah.
And, and they do things like if I pour a slab on a custom house or an addition, whatever I'm doing, that slab's going to sit 7 to 10 days just to dry up and cure. And, these guys are putting block on it the next day. It's all about production.
And they try to say that we use very fast curing.
Right.
I don't care how fast it cures. When you're putting, I don't know, how much is a house? 100,000 pounds? You put that much weight on any slab. I don't care if it's 6, 10 inches, whatever, and it's cured for a couple of days.
Mhm.
And then you see that house a year later and you see all kinds of cracks. Like garages are where I normally look,
Yeah.
because that's where you can see the expansion joints and everything else. It's just to pump product out.
It's pump product out and even stucco on the outside. You'll see, and make this joke, but you'll see stucco being applied on one side and the painter's following behind it. You just can't do that. And going back to the paint thing, a lot of people don't understand that paint is your number one protection of all the elements in your house. And if that waterproofing breaks down, then you're done. And the first floor is block, that can hold a little more water. The second floor are generally frame. So you're literally letting water soak into your lumber and your walls, and then it's too late. So I tell people sometimes, hey, I want to do this kitchen, I want to do this. I go, well, whatever your budget is, let's paint the outside of the house first, because that's where you need to do is protect yourself, and then move to the inside.
That was one of the only good things that I saw come from 2020, 2021 was, and I don't mind saying their name, but DR Horton.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're either number 1 or 2, them and Lennar. They kind of trade spots as far as who's the biggest.
Yeah.
So they were building in Pasco, right in the back of Nature's Hideaway.
Yep.
And when lumber went through the roof, they were the first one to go block all the way to the second story.
Yep.
And then eventually, I think Lennar followed suit with that.
Yep.
Because lumber was so expensive. That was the best thing those homeowners could have hoped for.
Yeah.
Because that house, now the house is more of a tank. Of course, it depends on who the masons were putting the block on and how thick, the mastic is and all that stuff that they're throwing in there. But I remember seeing that, and I remember talking to the rep in there, and I said, why are you guys going floor to ceiling block? And they said,
It's cheaper
right now. And I've never seen that in all the years I've been in real estate. Usually it's always second story is going to be frame.
Yep. And because that was traditionally cheaper. Originally, I remember when the whole COVID thing hit, we were doing a big remodel in Gulf Harbors. Just the lumber package alone, I lost $24,000 in one lumber package. So it was brutal.
I remember that house. I used to drive by that house
Yeah.
and look at the,
Yeah.
as you guys were going through the progress of it.
Yep. Unfortunately, they didn't pay us our final bill and we have a lien on it, but that's okay. It's
All the way in the back of the neighborhood.
no, this one was on Pilot's Place, kind of in the middle of the street.
Okay. Then you guys did one on West Shore, didn't you?
We did several on West Shore.
Yeah.
All those clients are great. Those every single client we've had on West Shore and back have been phenomenal.
Yeah.
And honestly, most of our clients have really been awesome. We have some that are our favorites, and most of them, we kind of become friends with, to be honest.
Are you able to talk for privacy reasons about any of the celebrity remodels that you've done? Because I remember seeing the pictures that you guys posted.
Yeah. Yeah. We did one Buccaneers player. I'm not allowed to talk about him, but we did an entire second story renovation, redid it like a huge master suite. And that was pretty cool. I'm a Bucks fan, so I thought it was extra nostalgic. And, he gave me some sideline passes to take my son, see a game. It was really cool. That was one of my favorites. And then, we did Mike Kelta's kitchen, and we did his studio. And since then become real good friends with Mike, and
his kitchen's awesome, by the way. I remember seeing the pictures of it. Holy cow.
It is. And, his wife, and did all the design work, and, they make us look good. Right. We build it, and the selections really bring it together. And then he had a steward studio, which was really cool. They're all good to us, every single one of them. The whole crew's there. We go in and visit sometimes, and just good, genuine, honest people. And
I love that guy's show, by the way. It's
yeah.
like him and Spanish, and it's you can tell they kind of they like each other because they rag on each other all the time.
Yeah,
that's the only talk show in Tampa Bay that I listen to. I used to listen to Steve Dumig until he passed, the sports guy. I love listening to Calta. He just seems like a real cool guy you can just hang out with. I played poker with him once. He had some event at the Hard Rock.
Oh yeah.
And I sat at the table with him. But yeah, seriously, super guy. For being a well-known guy locally,
yeah,
he's a good dude. Very,
very humble, very kind. And yeah, we're good friends. We go to dinner sometimes, and we both like to eat. And they do the tailgates for the Bucks games, and just a really cool thing to do, meeting all of them and being involved. And then like I said, I did Winky Wright's house, the professional boxer at the time, down in St. Pete, and probably some others I don't remember. But
so when someone's looking, because with the influx of individuals that have come into Florida from everywhere, there's so many unlicensed contractors that are out there right now.
Yeah.
And, it's if you follow, some of the different sheriff law enforcement pages on social media, you'll see how many of them get arrested, right?
Yep.
So talk about the differences, because obviously there's a difference in hiring a professional like Templar as opposed to, whoever the handyman is that knocks on your door saying, I'll remodel your bathroom for $2,500.
Yeah.
And, obviously that's going to be quite a bit more dealing with a company like yours. You're paying for reputation, you're paying for quality. So, talk about that a little bit, both, in the materials used and the difference of application from build out to final product, and then even post final product.
Sure.
Because the number of water leaks I've heard of inside the walls, but go ahead and talk about that a little bit.
So one of the things we do, when we do any sort of remodel is, we have actual tradesmen, right? So actual plumbers, actual electricians, actual framers, which leads to, experts in their field. That's what they do. We don't have one guy that does a little bit of everything. We have masters of their trade, and that leads to a better overall product. Handymen have their place, and we respect them. And, some of them respect the guidelines of what they're supposed to follow, and some of them don't. And, I'll tell customers like, hey, this guy is $20,000 cheaper than me. I go, well, he's not a licensed contractor, number one. So
they fall under a journeyman's license, if they even bother getting a license at all.
It depends on what they're doing, really.
Okay.
So it's, they have their limitations on what they can do. And, they can go do a little bit of painting, this and that, stuff like that. But they're not supposed to go in and remodel a bathroom or a kitchen, but they do. So one of the biggest things is now
hold on. I want to stop you there. Why should they not be remodeling a bathroom or a kitchen? I know, but I want to hear it, from your side of things. And I think it's going to help to maybe educate people that watch and listen to this.
Well, most bathrooms or kitchens require permitting, right? And you have to do a specific electrical work, specific plumbing work, stuff like that. And everything has to be done the right way. If you can't pull a permit, you don't have a license to pull a permit, then anything you do is basically illegal at that point. Now, from a homeowner's perspective, when you do use someone like that, you have no fallback. They have no liability. You can't even sue them. There's no real contract and there's no breach of contract because you've entered into a contract with someone that's not licensed. And it's also your responsibility to do that due diligence. You can't use the excuse anymore. I didn't know. Everything's available online. You can look up someone's information. You can find out if they have insurance, workers' comp, all that stuff. And all those things equate obviously to higher cost because we have to pay for them. We lose jobs all the time to, these people in these situations that aren't doing work properly. And that's not to say there's not plenty of handymen out there doing the right thing and working hard. So we're not referring to them. It's not a blanket statement. Just the ones that go where they're not supposed to go and they get away with it. So if you have a problem down the road with your bathroom or kitchen or whatever it is, who are you going to go find? Those guys are gone.
It's either small claims court or they've changed their phone number and they move away.
And what's small claims court going to do? You win a $5,000 judgment and you don't ever see the money. You're never going to get it fixed. At companies like us, we don't have many warranty issues, but if we do, we handle it. Why? Because we're a solid company and we're here and we're always going to be here. So you want a company that's going to be able to back it up. Like it's just not written on a piece of paper. I could write anything I want on a piece of paper and say, hey, I'll warranty this for 50 years. It doesn't matter if you're not there in 6 months.
Right.
So, we usually get the right type of clientele. We get to choose our clientele just like they like to choose us. And, it's just, we like to do nice work. We like to do things the right way. I don't have the ability to half-ass anything. I just don't have it. And I don't want to have it. So, I don't want to come back to your house for warranty items. I want to come back for a drink and sit back and look at the water and say, aren't you glad we did this? We both walk away happy. That's the key.
Yeah. And it's one of those, I think any business, contracting, I will say, is more than most in this state. Because even before the influx, but you do right by one person, you're lucky if they tell 5. You do wrong by one person, and like Trinity Chat is kind of like the hub of it's some of the stuff that you see on that is ridiculous half the time. If I see one more person post, hey, what kind of snake is this? Seriously? I mean, there's Google out there, you can look stuff up. But when it comes to like business reviews and they go ahead and they'll tell 1 million people without ever giving the business owner an opportunity to remedy the situation, and there's some that deserve it. I mean, I've seen some legitimate complaints out there and unfortunately, well, I shouldn't say unfortunately and fortunately in my line of work, I see everything from pool companies to AC companies and some of them flat out deserve it for what they do. But it goes across every industry, but in yours specifically, because you're doing custom work and it's generally high dollar custom work. You're not going really, for the most part, to a big chain store to buy your materials. You're getting custom tile, custom backsplash, custom faucets, and there's an intrinsic value to that, both in the installation and the quality of the materials that you're getting.
Right. There is. And quick example, we just did a Gulf Harbors remodel, installed 3,200 square feet of tile. And in a certain light, it looked fine. Towards later in the day when we were never there, or early evening, you could see a defect in the tile. And we ended up having to rip it all out and redo it because that's the right thing to do, And
what was the defect? I'm curious.
It was like a ripple effect. Like if you looked at it a certain way, it was wavy. It was very strange.
So it was ceramic?
It was porcelain tile.
Okay.
And wood plank type tile. The manufacturer replaced it. And here's something very important too that everybody should know. When you buy a tile, it is critical that you follow the manufacturer's specs on pattern. Those long plank tiles have a bow to them, and you can't do them in half brick patterns. You have to do them in thirds, and it specifies. And if you don't do that, you have no warranty. It's done.
So when that happened, which is interesting that a tile would be bowed, but I mean, I've seen it in just about everything because it's, it's a hard surface and it's more dye lot issues. You get halfway done and then the dye lot is a different pattern here than it is in the front of the house. So the manufacturer actually warranted that
Yes.
Now, did they have to pay for your labor and the rip up and all that other stuff, or how did that work?
They paid for the majority of it, and they did the right thing. You pay the installers, the demo, and all that stuff, but there's a lot of things that still affect me, right? That's a huge timeline. I lose 5 weeks of time between tearing it up and redoing it again. I can't put my cabinets in. I can't do a lot of stuff until that's done. So I lose time on that, which, the bottom line is we do what we say you're going to do. That's one of the most important things in our industry, and probably every industry, is live by your word. It doesn't matter if it hurts you. And I'll bring up one example. Young in our Templar career, we made a mistake and signed a contract that we were going to lose money on. And, I didn't want to do it. Some of the other guys signed it, and that's, whatever. We were bound by it. So it's a full, huge house remodel, addition, everything in Clearwater Beach. And I literally took a loan out to finish the job. We finished that job negative $50,000, right? So not only do you pay $50,000 to do this gentleman's house, you also lost the profit that would have been involved.
So how does that happen? So for the general person that's not in construction, how do you bid a job, agree on the job, and then lose 50 grand?
Well, I bid the job out. I said we're not going to do the job because it's not profitable. And some other representatives that I was working with in my company went behind my back and signed the contract against my will. They also removed some protective verbiage in there, threw some things in. It was just someone inexperienced.
I get it.
Making the wrong call. And by that point, a lot of builders would have walked off and said, I'm not losing that money.
Let's either kill your reputation or do the job, eat it, and then potentially make it up by a neighbor or something like that. It's probably like Island Estates or something like that, I'd imagine.
So, Island Estates, exactly. And so that's what we did. And, I still see the guy today, and he's like, listen, this house is flawless, and I appreciate you sticking through it. I appreciate what you did. I literally took a loan out to finish the job. And, that put us in a bad spot, and the old partner, some money disappearing put us in a bad spot. Not Reagan, the other guy. Mm-hmm. And, and then, so we kind of started over. We were down to $1,000 in the bank account and started right over. And I said, I'm not quitting. Reagan at that time was the same way. I'm not quitting either. And we put our heads down and went to work. And
so how many people do you have, contractor wise? How many subs do you have? How many employees do you have? And how many projects can you take on at a time?
Well, direct employees of Templar are just myself. I have a project manager, Joe Gillespie, an office manager, Lizette, and we actually just took on another project manager named Steve. So, currently we're, 4 as far as our core of what we control. As far as subcontractors go, we have 22 tile guys. I think we have 20 different framers, couple sets of electricians, plumbers, HVAC guys, and everything.
So you guys can take on how many hands-on projects?
We average about 25 jobs at a time.
Okay.
It depends on
what it is, how big it is, extensive. Yeah.
Right. And the beauty of it is it's about being, smart with scheduling and logistics, and being able to, when you're a contractor and you have crews that complete one project, they can only do one project. I can have my slab masons here. I can have my block masons here. I can have my framers here, my tile guys here, and manipulate it so we schedule it properly where everyone's happy. And we make mistakes just like everyone else, but we communicate. I respond immediately, and we make sure to fix them. The majority of the time we have nothing but happy customers. Some people you can't please, but I'm okay with that.
Have you noticed a difference in that number in the past couple of years?
I actually have. It's we talk about it a lot. A lot of people think that you can build a 10,000 square foot house in a month. I'm exaggerating, obviously, but
right.
Everyone wants something right now. And that's the world. And a lot of people also believe that just because they can go into Home Depot and buy 2x4s that they can build a wall.
Yep.
And that's a problem. We, and granted, don't get me wrong, 99% of our customers are absolutely amazing, but there's a couple here and there that just wear us down, and you can't please them. They're exhausting.
Well, it's the rule of 10%. So
Yeah.
10% of your customers dominate 90% of your time.
Yeah.
And it's the same, I think, in just about any industry,
Sure.
There's some that you can just never please. It really doesn't even matter what type of business it's in. I've had my hands in a lot of different businesses, and some are more challenging than others. And you can even show someone that it's done correctly and they just want to argue just to argue. So you just got to say, all right, you know what? It's not worth arguing. What can I do?
It's true.
And you just kind of move on. So let's talk about outside of construction here a little bit. So you're one of the founding members of the Hub.
Yes.
The Hub has done some amazing things in Pasco County.
Mm-hmm.
Continue to do some great things in Pasco County. There was at one point I couldn't drive down a single street without seeing a Hub billboard or bus or bench or anything. So, let's talk about that a little bit. I know that I was at the initial meeting when you guys were forming the Hub, and then you guys kind of took it to a much different level than where I expected it to go. And it's done some really, really great things in the community.
Yeah. And I'm not even sure that we expected it to grow that fast. I mean, we had talked about it for years. A lot of misconceptions out there on how the Hub started, and that's fine. But Reagan and I both started it. He definitely clicked the button on his phone. We were waiting on it because other social media platforms had been deleting our posts, Templar Contracting, and we're like, hey, we're following the rules. We're posting just because some people are intimidated by us. They're deleting.
So people were reporting it and saying it was spam or whatever.
Yeah, or the admins were literally deleting our posts, all of them, following the rules. And we had finally gotten sick of it. And he was at home on the weekend. I was literally on my boat, and he goes, it's time to turn it on. And he did. And by the time I got back home, there were already 4,000 people, I believe, on it. And we're like, holy cow. Okay, so let's go. And the whole premise of it was, to make a platform for people to kind of feel safe about recommendations on not just contractors, but, anything you need. And we both wanted to help the community and find ways to help the community. And that was kind of the core. It grew way faster than we thought, I think it was a year and a half. We grew it to 30,000 people.
It exploded really quick.
And, we did some good things. We made some mistakes like everyone else did. But they're strong now. Obviously I'm not involved with it anymore. Reagan and I parted ways, and we just kind of felt it was best to part our ways on everything.
But I think the foundation of the Hub was built, and it was built by you and Reagan.
Absolutely.
And then there's some other members that are in there that do outsider looking in, that put a tremendous amount of their personal and professional time into it.
Oh yeah.
And some of the things that I enjoyed watching was, the biggest one is probably Huboween, which I participated in with CPF Mortgage and Justin. And, they went and set up, but you had so many businesses that were willing. The Christmas tree thing in downtown Sims Park, the Huboween. You have so many people that are becoming a part of that, and people that look forward to that every year.
Yeah.
And that was based on the foundation that you guys had put together, that you had built. And regardless if you're a part of it now or not, it doesn't matter. The foundation is what's important in any company, because in the beginning is where you make or break if this thing's going to work, click, be good, not. Whatever direction it goes after that point, it's life. Things happen, you part ways.
Yeah.
Relationships come, relationships go, all that. But watching what you guys did, putting on, I don't even know where it was. It was downtown Newport Richie somewhere. They would put on classes for business owners, and you'd have speakers that would talk. I think once you had Garen in there.
Yeah, he was one of the first ones. That was the Hub Pro group.
Yeah. And that dude is ridiculously smart, and he's got a huge company. I was actually with Garen the night that COVID hit at a neighbor of mine's house.
Really?
And he was talking. I didn't know that some of his stuff was actually built in Wuhan, China.
Yeah.
And he was talking to his plant manager.
Yeah.
You know, and he and I don't really know each other that well, but I remember it intrinsically sitting there. First time I ever met the guy, literally one of the nicest people, and his family too. The nicest people you ever want to meet.
Mm-hmm.
His brain is so big. That guy is so incredibly smart. And watching him talk, how he spoke to his plant manager,
Mm-hmm.
it was like a member of his family. And
Yes.
how good he treated these people with what was happening at the time. It was like,
Yeah,
that's leadership right there.
He's always been that way. You know, him and I played soccer together in high school.
I didn't even know you guys went to high school together.
Yep, we went to Ridgewood and we played soccer together. And you know, and I was not much, like, you know, a few years younger than him. I think he was a senior, I was a freshman, and I made the varsity soccer team, so I was a young one. And he like took me under his wing. You know, he had this red Ford Escort that had this big loudspeaker system. He'd take me around, and you know, he was just always loving and cool. And then we remained friends for all these years. And then, you know, he's going back to the hub and the Huboween stuff. I remember the first year and the second year, you know, Reagan and I kind of looked at each other and we both knew what we were thinking, like, hey, we did this, you know, and all these people here, all these people that are together, all these businesses growing, all the community stuff, we put it together.
Yeah.
And so no matter the differences that we've had, we still have common goals and we had common, you know, wishes, like stuff like that. And, you know, he'd be out there in his mask talking to people, like being a goofball, and it was very entertaining and funny. You know, every car that came by, I remember the guy in the mask, Reagan, talking in his funny accent.
You guys had the hearse parked on the side of the,
yeah,
the entryway. It was kind of funny.
That was Dave Lukes from, you know, Red Tree Landscapes,
Mm-hmm.
you know, but there's all these people involved, you know, the James Morrises, you know, that guy goes all out every time. And, you know, the, Jennifer Verge, you know, she's like, you know, the go-to, she does all this stuff, which you know her very well. And she's, you know, big-hearted and always involved no matter what someone needs.
Love her. She's amazing.
There's a lot of people that, hey, you know, I don't see eye to eye with, but it doesn't matter. We can still give to our community in our own ways.
But see, that's the beauty of the whole thing, is that, you know, there's, that group was comprised of so many different business owners and personalities that in a normal setting
wouldn't work.
It would be like this. And even today, it's like this with a lot of them.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact that you guys were able to set that foundation and get for the common good, that they came together, because to be honest, the only people that I knew of, and not to say that there's not others, so I don't want people taking anything the wrong way.
Yeah.
But whenever I saw charities, and there's some people that didn't want their name out there. If they do good, they want to keep it to themselves, which I respect.
Sure.
But I always saw the Farrells.
Mm-hmm.
And that family does a lot in Pasco that a lot of people don't know about.
Always have.
And then the Papapanos from Christos.
Yeah.
They feed more people without saying a word.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, you know, I love that family till the day that I die. And the greatest thing that I've seen in Pasco, and I've been here 20 some odd years now, was when COVID hit.
Oh yeah.
And the love that went to that restaurant. Mm-hmm. Because they fed so many people, and we were the first ones. It was me, my wife, and some friends we used to have. We set up tables in the parking lot, and then other people started bringing tables and sitting on their tailgates, and then just tipping as much as we could to the servers because of the love that family showed. But those two families, the amount of stuff that they do, and once again, I know that there's other families out there, but those were the ones that I remember seeing, helping. You know, Theo and I went to the hospital, Trinity Hospital, and we were delivering breakfast sandwiches.
Remember that. Yeah.
And it just felt so good to not want anything in return.
Well, keep in mind this too. These people are doing all these good things while their own business is hurting.
Yeah.
And that actually makes it, to me, more special. No need for recognition. They don't want it. The need is there to not pound their chest. It's to actually literally help people. And that's what they do. And this county is small enough on this side where we can all recognize and see and appreciate all of this. And that's honestly kind of one of the things that we really tried to do, you know, like the second year of the first year of Huboween, we didn't have our 501c ready. And we donated, and it was a free event. I think we donated $12,000 to Marjorie's Hope just on donations. You know, second year we did $60,000. I think 3,500 cars went through. It was crazy. And then, you know, we got to buy, I don't remember how many, but tons of families Christmas gifts that wouldn't have had Christmas, you know, and we got to do that. I'm in the Newport Richey Rotary now. So, you know, we get to do the John Hudson, we give away stuff and they take care of the charity. The whole community is just taken care of by one or another. You know, it's just really cool to see. And, you know, like I said, some people want recognition, some people don't, but you can't take away either side for what they do. Right.
It's just the good that went into it. You know, like you mentioned a couple business owners, you know, as you were talking about it and watching their business, because I vividly remember we were at JL at Jordan's place, sitting around that table, and these were small businesses, you know, but watching them grow and however a business grows, it grows. Whether I agree with it, they don't grow, it doesn't matter. But watching somebody go from being a tiny little company to having a big business now with billboards, I'm like, that's pretty freaking cool. You know,
it's absolutely cool. Their kids benefit, they benefit, the community benefits. And, you know, Reagan and I did have a lot of hate to deal with when growing the hub and Templar, you know, and that's fine. You know, people feel whatever way, and, you know, I don't care what happened or who said what. We pushed through it all. I think we kept our integrity intact, and we just.
You show me one successful person on planet Earth that doesn't have haters.
True.
No, I don't care how much good that they do. It's easier. It's easier to go ahead and go online, and, you know, to me, the internet is one of the greatest and worst things that ever happened. And cell phones, to me, I talk about it with my wife all the time. How many selfies can you take? Like, seriously.
Agreed.
You know, love her to death, but the internet is one of the greatest and worst things ever, because everybody's a keyboard tough guy, you know, and I've run into that in my business with, you know, people that they'll say, and I was talking to, you know, another guest on the podcast about this. Oh my God, you're so lucky to have all that business. And I'm like, you don't know that in my first year in real estate, 7 a.m. to 11 a.m., I was sitting at a table inside of a gym. And then at night from 4 to 8 p.m., I sat every night. And then in between that, I would door knock on every single door in Thousand Oaks East, Thousand Oaks multifamily, Trinity Oaks. You know, I went to all the neighborhoods that were there at the time. You know, Foxwood, before it was gated, I think it wasn't gated at the time. But I would go and I would knock on these doors and just introduce myself. Hey, I'm Mike. I'm a member of the community. I'm a Marine Corps veteran. Da 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 da. That's how I built it. I'd always bring extra T-shirts with me, but they didn't see that stuff. Right. So now it's very easy for them to hate. And the same thing happened with the hub. You know, there was positive and negative, and in full transparency, some of the negative was deserved. You know, based on some of the stuff that went out there. There's some that was very well deserved. But
part of the learning curve also.
Anytime you're trying to do something good, there's going to be roadblocks. Sure. You know, it doesn't matter what it is, what you do, how good you do it. You know, you could hand somebody $100 bill. They say, why didn't you give them 1,000? You know, 100%. So, you know, the hub, I think has served a wonderful purpose in the community. It's given a lot of people inspiration. You've had some great people that are thriving. Their businesses, their families are thriving because of it. And that's a testament to what you guys built. You know, and then the other members that came in, what they contributed. Yes. So, you know, going back to Templar real quick, because I know we got to wrap up here in a minute, is what do you see for the future of Templar? What's Joey Deeb's vision of the future? So
Templar for me is family, right? I'm a single father, as you know, and I raised my daughter. I have a stepson. Everything's about them, you know. Whatever I do is about them. I love them. You know, I want them to have a great future. Their schooling, their homework, soccer, all the stuff is what I work and live for. And I try to set an example every single day. And I want Templar, you know, which I believe we've already, you know, set a good standard to grow, but not too much. You know, I don't want to be a huge company. I want to stay local in this community. I want to, you know, emerge another possible charity out of this company to focus on things. We're actually getting involved with some Habitat for Humanity houses. And,
I was hoping you were going to say that.
And we have some really big plans, but the goal is my core people and everyone. It's my job and my responsibility to keep the integrity and keep all of their families fed. And to do that, we always have to do the right thing, say the right thing, say what you're, do what you say, and really just follow along a path of a great moral compass and a great family life and being a great friend, father, uncle, just a good person altogether. We're going to make mistakes along the way. We're going to say things and do things we shouldn't have, but I'm always okay to be man enough to admit my mistakes and move on. And, we've learned our lessons, and there's a ton of good to do. There's a ton of people that need help. I give business advice to whoever wants to hear it. A lot of people reach out, but I just want to be a good, solid, recognizable company in the community where when people say Templar, like, yeah, I like those guys.
So we got your shield up on the screen there. If somebody wants to get in touch with Templar Contracting, what's the best way to do it?
They can call me directly, 727-237-8409. We're social media. We have a great Facebook page. I'm much better at building things than I am at social media, and that's fine. But, you kind of see before and afters and what we do. And
we actually have some of the before and afters that you shared. So we'll be having these,
nice.
Put up there. Yeah, some of the kitchens that you guys do are just literally off the charts. I mean, they're really.
Thank you.
I'm pretty picky when it comes to kitchens because I go into probably an average of 30 to 40 houses a week.
Of course.
And it's insane what you guys do and the quality of the finishes and the fixtures. And I'm spoiled because I see a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's really, really good work that I see you guys doing. I really appreciate you taking the time away. I know you're busy to come on in here.
Thank you.
Anything else you want to plug while you're in here?
No, we're good. Just love our community. Appreciate you having us. And
any more celebrity name drops that you want to just randomly throw out there other than the 50 you've named?
Next time.
Okay. Joey, thanks, man.
Thank you.
Appreciate it, brother. And we'll see you next time on the Mic'd Up Podcast.